Hello everybody, it's me. I swear that my equipment literally just wants me to say at the start of every video that I do that I've been trying to record this video for a while, but my equipment keeps going wrong. I think it actually wants me to, so I've started with that so that it doesn't crash again. Anyway, so I'm doing a video today about the correlation between Big Five personality test and Myers-Briggs, because I think it's quite interesting, and it also will hope to explain a little bit more about how Myers-Briggs works, and hopefully explain you know, how the thing correlates and links together. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I was having a chat with Crystal, and I said that I can probably help to explain the correlations between the two. And she said, oh, I'd be interested in that. And I said, well, I think it's probably worth doing a video for. So I'm here doing a video. Hopefully it'll work. Anyway, so the other thing I should quickly mention is that I was having a chat with Sana about this particular test. And she can see where I went with these ideas. And hopefully it will be quite interesting for people to watch. Now, okay, so on to the subject at hand. Right, so in Big Five, I'm going to use a certain website that you can get a Big Five personality test from. So if you go to learnmyself.com, and the reason that I use learnmyself.com is because of the order in which it puts the different metrics, and it will make it easier to explain. And I will use myself as an example because it's easier. As an ENFJ, I'm going to score a certain personality, probably going to score a certain type on Big Five, which correlates. Okay, so I'll explain how which one correlates and how I compare with the two things. So, so basically, Big Five, and in Learn Myself, there's 5 different metrics, which is why it's called Big Five. So in Big Five, you've got 4 things which correlate with Myers-Briggs, and the 5th thing which doesn't. So Myers-Briggs doesn't use this thing, and the reason I'm talking about this one and not these is because in Learn Myself, the first metric is to do with how emotionally balanced or emotionally reactive you are. So you either score B or R, okay? But it's not related to the rest of your personality over here. Okay, Myers-Briggs, these things here will most likely correlate with Myers-Briggs. They might not, which is fine, because obviously nothing always correlates perfectly between the two, but they often correlate, which is why it's worth doing this video and worth talking about. Now, 16 personalities, where you can also take a Myers-Briggs test, talks about turbulent versus so it talks about turbulent versus assertiveness. Okay. But you can be an assertive or turbulent ENFJ. Okay, so this is unimportant for the purposes of this, other than to say that those people who are more turbulent are more likely to find it difficult to figure out the type. Okay, so turbulent personality people, people that score turbulent are less likely to be able to figure out their own type, which is the same as, if you're reactive, emotionally reactive instead of emotionally balanced, you're more likely to find it difficult to figure out the rest of this. Okay, so the thing is that I'm, as an ENFJ, I don't obviously, but as an ENFJ, I score B for my first part of this thing, and then the others go in the same order, so E, O, A, D. So E is extroversion, so that talks about how social you are. O is openness to experience, and that usually correlates with N. So openness to experience usually correlates with intuition. A is agreeableness, and that usually correlates with feeling. And D is discipline, which usually correlates with J, with judging. Okay, so that's how that works, right? So what I'm going to quickly do as well is explain it in using some props, and show you how what Myers-Briggs does is that it breaks it down into smaller and more interesting chunks. Okay, so, and the thing about Big Five is that it's more easy to demonstrate scientifically, because obviously it's a lot simpler, and I'll show you why. But it also helps you to figure out why people act in certain ways as well in certain times. So it's worth talking about. So here come the lovely props. So I have a beautiful jug here, and that's full of my first metric, which is extroversion. Right? So I'm an extrovert. In Big Five, it simply means that you enjoy being around people. You enjoy being social. Okay? As an extrovert. Fair enough, fine. In Myers-Briggs, it's more interesting because what it does is, excuse my dog, it breaks it down into other parts. Okay? So you can see I've got both the extroverted judging functions here, extroverted feeling and extroverted thinking, or you can also be an extrovert in these ways. So Myers-Briggs says you can be an extrovert, but you can be an extrovert in 4 different ways. So you can be an extroverted intuition user down here, or an extroverted sensing user over here, or you can be an extroverted feeling user, which is here, or you can be an extroverted thinking user, which is over here. So these are the 4 types of ways of being extroverted in Myers-Briggs, which Big Five doesn't really do. Okay, so that's the first thing to show you a correlation and a similarity between. The next thing is openness to experience. Now I did say earlier that it correlated with intuition most, but the interesting thing is as well is that there's my O jug. Okay, that's my openness to experience. Okay, so in here you can see I've written on here that it both relates to N, intuition, but also it can relate to extroverted sensing, because the thing about openness to experience is that it doesn't just talk about how open to experience you are in your own mind or outwardly with your mind. It talks about how adventurous you might be, and we all know that extroverted sensing users do tend to be quite adventurous types. So quite a lot of extroverted sensing users can also score an O when they're doing this test. So that's quite interesting. But the other thing, of course, is that you can divide this up in Myers-Briggs. So in Myers-Briggs, this O jug gets poured out into these different types of being open to experience. You can be an introverted intuition user, which usually probably means that as an introverted intuition user, you're going to be adventurous with your mind, and you're going to be adventurous with ideas and stuff like that. Extroverted sensing users are also going to be adventurous, but in different types of ways. You know, they're going to be more adventurous in terms of doing things. Okay, but that's also there's a similarity there between NE and SE anyway. NE being the extroverted intuition function. These two have a relation and a correlation too, because extroverted intuition and extroverted sensing are both extroverted perceiving functions. So extroverted intuits and extroverted sensors tend to both also enjoy being connected with the world at the same time, you know, very clearly. But the other thing about the thing that's interesting is that the extroverted sensors will be better at telling what is exactly going on with the world right now, whereas extroverted intuits are much more likely to be connected with the world directly, but add to it with an absolute shed load of too much information that nobody, you know, just absolute huge amount of brainstorming that goes on with NE. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, well, I say it's ridiculous. I love my NE users, they're great. So, I like an NE user. So the thing is, right, the next thing is agreeableness. So, there's my jug of agreeableness, okay? Now, the more agreeable among us are going to be feelers, okay? So we're either going to be extroverted feeling or introverted feeling users. Of course, the other interesting thing about this is that we all know that introverted feeling users sometimes aren't necessarily as agreeable as maybe extroverted feeling users appear to be. But that's what makes this interesting, because we all know that people who score feeling on Myers-Briggs 2, why did I say Myers-Briggs 2? It sounds like Myers-Briggs Mark 2. People who score agreeable or feeling on Myers-Briggs tend to be more agreeable, even if they're introverted feeling users. Okay, so that's what makes it interesting, because people who score FE or FI, so if they're an FP, they're still going to score. If they're an FP, they're still going to be saying yes to the things which extroverted feeling users would use as well. So we know that these, you know, would agree with as well. So we know that agreeable means that they're either an FI or an FE user. So they're going to end up being one of these. They're going to be using one of these functions. And the last thing, of course, is the discipline. Okay, my dog. The discipline. Okay. So that's the discipline user. But discipline literally just means to do with your judging. Now the thing is, of course, in Big 5, discipline just means judging, which is it means that you could actually get a discipline score, and it would be kind of strange because you might be a perceiver. So that one's a bit of an odd one, but it's still interesting. Now obviously the other side, so you can either get J or P in that particular thing, little J and P here. So that's how it correlates, basically. That's how it works. So EOAD is ENFJ when you're using learnmyself.com, and that's one of the Big 5 tests. So that's not a problem at all. And you can see how it correlates. But the thing is that you may not find that you correlate with what I've just explained. But having done various times, gone into various forums on Facebook or whatever and said, oh, you know, what do you get in this test? Most of the ENFJs will get EOAD, even if they score reactive or balanced. You know, so they're either turbulent or assertive, but it doesn't make them not an ENFJ, and they will still score ENFJ. So yep. So those are the correlations between Myers-Briggs and Big 5. So I hope you find that interesting, and I hope you watch this lovely video and enjoy it all. And I shall see you all soon. Bye.